The alarm bells are ringing, and most Americans have no idea what is coming. Right now, 127 million people are sitting on a financial time bomb that could detonate at any moment. We are talking about the potential for decades of life's work to be wiped out in a matter of months, while the majority still believe they are safe. This is not just a recession, it is the systematic repricing of the American dream. Before we dive into the data, make sure you subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We follow the money and the tax codes that the mainstream media refuses to audit. If you want to protect your wealth, you need to be part of this community. We are entering the largest wealth transfer in human history, but it's not going to the people you think. It is a perfect storm that combines collapsing real estate values, a massive currency debasement, and a retirement system built on quicksand. The baby boomer generation, which controls over 70% of all wealth in the United States, is about to discover that the very system they trusted for 40 years is turning against them. Consider the story of a typical retiree. Let's call her a teacher from the suburbs. She bought her home in the 80s for less than $100,000 and watched it appreciate to nearly $1 million. That house isn't just a home. It's her entire retirement strategy. She plans to sell, downsize, and live off the equity. But here is the first domino in a catastrophic chain reaction. 10,000 people are hitting retirement age every single day. Every 24 hours, 10,000 Americans transition from earning an income to needing to liquidate their assets to survive. And where is that wealth concentrated? Real estate. For most boomers, 80 to 90% of their net worth is tied up in their primary residence. This creates a massive liquidity crisis. When tens of millions of people try to exit the same asset class at the same time, the fundamental laws of supply and demand take over. But why is this happening now? The answer lies in the silver tsunami. For decades, the housing market was propped up by a massive, growing middle class with stable jobs and high savings. But as that generation exits the workforce, they stop being buyers and start being sellers. They are moving from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase. The generations behind them, Gen X and Millennials, are simply not in a position to catch the falling knife. Gen X is a significantly smaller generation, and Millennials, while large in number, are drowning in over $1.7 trillion of student loan debt. When you have a massive surge in supply and a hollowed-out buyer pool, the math only goes one way, down. The residential market is just the warm-up act. The second domino is the $14 trillion commercial real estate sector. This is the invisible skeleton of the American economy. Office buildings, shopping centers, and warehouses are facing a permanent demand shift. Since 2020, the concept of work has changed forever. Office vacancy rates in major hubs like San Francisco, Chicago, and New York are at historic highs. These buildings are collateral for trillions of dollars in bank loans. Approximately $1.5 trillion in commercial loans are coming due for refinancing between now and 2027. These loans were signed when interest rates were near zero. Now property owners are looking at rates 400% higher. If a building is half empty and the cost of the debt triples, the building is effectively worthless. This leads to strategic defaults, where owners literally mail the keys back to the bank. But the banks can't hold these assets forever. This will lead to a banking crisis that makes 2008 look like a rehearsal. These defaults will ripple through every pension fund, every insurance company, and every 401,000 in the country. You might not own an office building, but your retirement fund almost certainly does. If you want to understand how these dominoes fall before the crash becomes official, you must subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We are looking at the numbers that most people are never told. This brings us to the third and most dangerous domino, the explosion of government debt and the debasement of the US dollar. The national debt has surpassed $38 trillion. This number is so large it's hard to visualize. If you spent $1 every second, it would take you over 1 million years to spend $38 trillion. The annual interest payment alone is approaching $1 trillion. This interest payment is now larger than the entire US defense budget. To manage this, the government has moved past the point of raising taxes or cutting spending. If they raised taxes enough to pay this off, they would crush the economy instantly. If they cut spending, they would face a revolution. So they have chosen the third option, inflating the debt away by printing money. This is the ultimate tax hack used by governments. Since 2020, the Federal Reserve has created more money than in the previous century combined. Every new dollar diluted the value of the dollars you have saved. It is a hidden tax that disproportionately destroys the fixed incomes of retirees. When the cost of eggs, milk, and gas doubles, that is not prices going up, it is the dollar going down. Let's connect the dots. Boomers are trying to sell their homes into a market flooded with supply and limited demand. The commercial assets in their portfolios are collapsing, and the cash they eventually receive is being devalued by inflation. It is a triple threat attacking American wealth from every angle. This isn't a theory, it's happening in real time. We are transitioning from a growth-oriented economy to a maintenance-oriented economy serving an aging population. This shift requires a complete rethinking of asset valuations. The international landscape is making this even more critical. For 80 years, the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency. This gave America the exorbitant privilege of printing money to pay for imports. But that status is being challenged by nations like China, Russia, Brazil, and India, the BRICS nations. As the world develops payment systems that bypass the dollar, the United States will no longer be able to export its inflation to other countries. When that privilege ends, the trillions of dollars currently held overseas will come rushing back home, causing a hyperinflationary event. Americans will face the full impact of decades of money printing, compressed into a very short window. The generational wealth transfer occurring right now isn't just about money changing hands. It is a fundamental restructuring of society. The post-World War II economic model, built on cheap energy and an expanding labor force, is ending. We are moving into an era of stagflation, stagnant growth combined with high inflation. In this environment, the old rules don't work. The 60/40 portfolio of stocks and bonds is a death trap. Bonds are losing value because of rising rates, and stocks are being squeezed by falling consumer demand and rising input costs. Those who understand this and position themselves accordingly will be able to acquire distressed assets at massive discounts. Those who stay in the denial phase will be the ones forced to sell at the bottom. We are seeing a massive shift in how wealth is stored. For the last 40 years, wealth was stored in financial assets, paper, digits, and promises. In the next decade, wealth will be stored in real assets, things you can touch. To survive this, you have to stop thinking like the crowd. Traditional financial advice, like keeping everything in a diversified stock and bond portfolio or counting on home equity, is based on a reality that no longer exists. Physical assets with intrinsic value, such as precious metals, energy infrastructure, and productive land, become vital when paper currencies lose their grip. Gold and silver have been money for 5,000 years. The US dollar has been unbacked by gold for only 50. History tells us which one will survive. Geographic diversification is also becoming a necessity, not a luxury. The cost of living and the tax burden in major metropolitan areas are becoming unsustainable. We are seeing a great migration as people flee high-tax states for places with more economic freedom. But even that has a limit. You need to look at your tax footprint. How much of your wealth is vulnerable to government seizure or wealth taxes? This is why we focus on tax hacks, legal strategies to shield your hard-earned money from the coming inflation tax. The choice is yours. You can keep believing that the government will solve these problems or that your retirement plans are bulletproof. You can listen to the talking heads on the news tell you that the economy is resilient, while you see your purchasing power evaporate every time you go to the grocery store. Or you can face the uncomfortable truth and take action. The psychological barrier to taking action is recency bias. We think because things have been okay for a long time, they will always be okay. But history is full of examples of great empires that collapsed under the weight of debt and currency debasement. From Rome to the British Empire, the pattern is always the same: overexpansion, massive debt, currency clipping, and then the collapse. We are in the currency clipping phase right now. Time is running out, and the dominoes are already falling. We are seeing the first cracks in the regional banking system. We are seeing the first major defaults in the commercial office sector. We are seeing the middle class being squeezed like never before. If you want specific strategies on how to protect your family and your future during this transition, make sure you are subscribed to Tax Hack Pro. The curiosity you should have right now isn't if this will happen, but how fast. How fast will the dollar lose another 30% of its value? How fast will your home equity disappear as the neighbor is forced to sell in a fire sale? How fast will the government introduce a central bank digital currency to track every single penny you spend? These are the questions that will define the next 5 years of your life. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you up. In every crisis, there are winners and losers. The winners are those who see the shift before it becomes obvious on the evening news. The winners are those who move their capital out of harm's way before the exits are blocked. The winners are those who educate themselves and take responsibility for their own financial survival. The America your parents knew is gone. The era of easy growth and guaranteed retirement is over. But the new economy is just beginning. There will be incredible opportunities to build wealth, but only for those who are playing by the new rules. You cannot win a game if you are using an old rulebook. Make sure you stay tuned for our next deep dive into the specific tax hacks and asset protections you need right now. We are going to look at offshore accounts, physical bullion storage, and how to restructure your 401,000 to survive a market crash. The window for moving your money is closing. I'll see you in the next video, where we expose the hidden fees and tax traps that are draining your savings every single day. Don't be a victim of the system, be a student of the hack. Stay safe and stay informed. This is Tax Hack Pro, and the audit of the American dream has just begun. If you are still here, it means you are ready to hear the truth. Don't let this information sit idle. Take a look at your bank statements, your property taxes, and your retirement contributions. Ask yourself, is this asset safe if the dollar drops another 20%? If the answer is no, you have work to do. Join us on this journey as we navigate the greatest economic shift in history. Subscribe to Tax Hack Pro, and let's get to work.